Okay, hi everybody. I know I'm the last one before the break, so I appreciate all the judges' long attention spans with, I think, 6 or 7 presentations now. I'll go pretty fast. Let me just start by introducing myself a little bit. So I've been in the financial sector and emerging markets for about 20 years. I've worked at the World Bank, worked on Wall Street, run a number of financial sector businesses in India and East Africa. And this project I'm going to tell you about, Lendledger, we started last year because we actually run lending businesses today. And we found some existing challenges in the way these central businesses are run. And there's a big opportunity here to use blockchain. So lending is a big space in crypto. Crypto and lending, whenever I tell somebody we're doing a crypto and lending project, they always have some other project that they tell me about. They say Salt, or they say ETHLend, or they say Celsius, or they say Money Token, or Libra Credit, or something. So I wanted to start by just explaining what this crypto and lending space looks like and where we are. We actually are dealing with banks and financial institutions making loans to small businesses and individuals. So there's no crypto lending, lending against crypto, crypto-backed lending. That's not what we do. That's a lot of other players in the space. This is where we are. So to give a sense of the size, because we're talking about emerging markets, lending to small businesses in emerging markets is almost $12 trillion. What is this number? This number is the demand for loans from micro, small, medium enterprises. It's a very big number. The fact is, not all of this lending actually happens. There's about $8 trillion that doesn't make it. And so we're challenging and figuring out how can we solve that problem, starting with a very attackable niche. So the niche we look at is lending to informal businesses in emerging markets. And here's the pain point. The pain point number one is that these small informal businesses like this guy's name is Habib. He is a milk trader. He's in Hyderabad in India. So he has never taken a loan from a bank. And there's 200 million or so enterprises like him who have never been able to get bank financing. So the first big pain point for the borrower is about $3 trillion in finance that they're not able to get. They instead have to go to friends and family, money lenders, etc. Now, the fact is that there is data on this guy, but lenders are not able to access that data. So the data that we have on him, for example, is swipes of debit cards that people do when they walk into his store and they buy milk. That data is very useful to a lender because we can look at that, we know his sales history, and we can make a loan. But unfortunately, lenders are not able to access that data easily, and so there's $30 billion, which is 1% of the lending amount that data can't monetize. And this is an existing business model that we run. The data sources get 1%. The lenders have something like a 10% interest margin. So that's $290 billion of interest that lenders can't earn. So we're in this business. This is a pain point for us as a lender. What do we have today? So what we've built in India over the last year and a half is a business called Happy Loans. Happy has made about 23,000 loans. We've loaned out 13 million bucks. We have 2% loss rate. We've actually done custom, one-by-one commercial integrations and technical integrations with more than 20 data sources. So this includes Paytm for mobile wallet data. It includes the largest independent point-of-sale network, M-Swipe. It includes money transfer networks. It includes e-commerce sites. Now Flipkart is a partner of ours. So we get data on these small businesses, and we make loans from our own balance sheet, which is here, Arth Impact, as well as 6 other lenders. So we've put this whole thing together. This is a central lending business. It's a centralized lending intermediary. So I kind of pointed to one of the issues. One of the issues is that it's very slow and very difficult to integrate with all of these partners and get data. Every single one wants to do it a different way, number one. Number two, because we're a middleman, we're taking our cut out of this. And I know, running this business, that this is only so big we're going to get. We're in a huge market, which is India, but if we want to tackle a multi-trillion-dollar space, it's not going to happen because we run this business and build another business in Myanmar and another business in Thailand. What we need is something better. So what is the right infrastructure for lending to tackle this kind of problem? It has to have 3 components. Number one, we need an open marketplace. So anyone who has data can join and submit the data and monetize it. Anyone who wants to lend, who has a lending license, can look at that data, buy it, and make loans with it. So that's step one. That's the first thing that we need. Second thing is, if we don't want a middleman, if we don't want an intermediary, we all need to know which person we should trust, which lender is making loans, which data source is actually useful, how good these borrowers are. We need a trusted place to look at what's happening in the space, and so we need on-chain transacting where we can see people's reputations. And the last and most important thing, I think, and if we're especially talking about mass adoption of crypto and blockchain, is we need a way for borrowers to be in control, to actually share their data with lenders, and most importantly, not to have to learn crypto. So that guy whose picture I showed you, he is not going to figure out a mobile wallet, a crypto wallet. He's not going to figure out private keys. He doesn't want to deal with Bitcoin prices going up and down. That has to be completely invisible. So that's what Lendledger has to be. Lendledger, which is the architecture we're building, has to have these different components. We already have built open APIs for sharing borrower data because we use them in our business today. So this is, for example, an API that allows any POS network to submit anonymous merchant data to us as a lender. We already have web-based interfaces, so we have kind of a software as a service product that we already use for ourselves internally that shows us where we're lending, how we're lending, all that kind of stuff. And now we're building the on-chain loan contracts. We're using Stellar because the transaction fees are very low and it's very fast. We've now also started looking at EOS and other things. And frankly, because we're a layer that sits above these blockchains, I don't like to be dependent on one of them. We want to be agnostic as to what the base blockchain is. This is going to be tested in October, so in about 3 weeks. And finally, that last point I made about not wanting the lenders or the borrowers to deal with crypto, what we've done is come up with a system where the lender deals in fiat currency, the borrower deals in fiat currency, they get a loan in their local currency, and you have something in the middle that actually translates this and records all the lending on-chain. And this is what the token model really is. We need a token that creates pegged, stable, on-chain currency, or on-chain accounting units. We call those ledger credits. So when this node stakes our token, temporarily, that creates the credits that a lender gives to a borrower, and a borrower repays to a lender. But because we want that credit node to be honest, we make sure that every time they do that activity, which they charge a fee for, they also put some percentage of that loan amount in a bond, which is locked up for 90 days. So effectively, as these tokens are powering lending on the network, they're also securing the network by being stuck in a bond. And because we have a fixed loan supply, a fixed token supply, as more and more lending happens and as more and more credit nodes put tokens into these bonds for 90-day periods, automatically we have growth in demand for the tokens as lending volumes grow. So just our background, these are some of the companies that we've been associated with. Happy is the lending business I showed you in the beginning. I was the CFO at SKS back in 2002. That company is one of the biggest microfinance lenders in India, went public in 2010. I then worked at the World Bank for a few years, that's CGAP. My partner Manish, he started Fino, which came out of ICICI Bank. He also started a mobile banking company, YTS, which he sold to Airtel, and became the CEO of the Airtel Payments Bank. So we've been in the financial sector space for a long time. Sanchit, our lead blockchain architect, actually has also built blockchain projects for Yes Bank, which is one of the big private sector banks in India. Some of the roles that I've had over the years are, in the top row and some of the bottom. So, I sit on the investment committee of a $200 million private equity fund in New York that does financial sector investments. I've been an advisor to a Venture Lab, which is a smaller VC fund, and I've done, individual consulting with my partners for companies like Microsoft, Visa, and others in emerging markets in the mobile financial services space. So I show this because, what we're doing is we're not creating some fancy new technology. We're creating a protocol, and we've got to get it out there, and we've got to get it out there before other people do. And this is the way we're going to do it, is because we actually have great networks in these contexts. So as we think about the community and our advisors, our advisors are very what is the word I'm looking for? Illustrious. So, Nick Hughes, who's a former business partner of mine, was the founder of M-Pesa, one of the largest mobile payments businesses around the world that Vodafone started. Now, we also have Alex Mashinsky, who's the founder of Celsius, also New York-based like me. He's very successful and very helpful. And as we build a community, we obviously have the Telegram groups and we've got the Twitter feeds and all this kind of stuff, but we're specifically targeted and have highlighted people on our blog who we call Lendledger community experts who come from data providers, they come from lenders, especially in markets that we're interested in going to, Eastern Europe, East Asia, Southeast Asia, East Africa. Is that the first bell or the second bell? Second bell? Oh boy. All right. Two slides. Okay. So what are we doing now? So as I mentioned, we have the existing lending business in India. By the end of the year, we're going to move that lending business onto Lendledger. So while we're testing it in October, the goal is by the end of December, we actually are running $2 to $3 million of loans every month on Lendledger. So everybody can see how the thing works. The token's working, and we're going to mint the tokens in December is the plan. Milestone 2 is next year we intend to have the second market live. We already have MOUs signed for Singapore, Philippines, and Myanmar, and we also have networks in East Africa. So one of those markets will be the second that we go into. And we are doing a token sale despite the rocky road here with the markets and the prices. But we don't need a whole lot of money because we actually do generate revenue. We are a running business. So we're using that funds to actually build everything we're building. We're raising between 2 and 4 million. It's a very small percentage of the tokens, but that's kind of phase 1. And we expect to sell maybe in a year or as we need funds going forward. 2 to 4 million. We have about 1.3 committed. And so we're almost there. Oh, last slide. Okay, so why is Lendledger a great project? For people to participate in, for people to buy tokens, and especially if you're in the financial sector. It's a scalable infrastructure with an attackable large use case. We've got real token economics where a token makes sense for what we're doing and grows as lending grows. We're going to be near-term live because we already are powering 30 million in annual lending, which is what the lending business does. We're only selling a small number of tokens, and our team has a lot of experience and a lot of gray hair in this space. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I understand your model has sort of fiat in, fiat out for the loans, and I can also appreciate sort of using the blockchain for acquiring the data, for staking as collateral for the loan, and so forth. Why do you need a native token? Why not use like either a fiat-backed token or sort of just use the blockchain as a ledger and not necessarily have a native token?
So second part, why a blockchain just as a ledger? Because if I tell the blockchain I made a loan to you of 500 and you tell the blockchain you made a loan of 450 or whatever you tell it, we can't trust it. So my going-in assumption is for this to scale to massive amounts, we actually need to see value on the blockchain moving from one lender to a borrower. So that's number one. Number two, I don't think these I'm not a technologist, but my understanding of the stable coins is that they're very far away. We need something on the blockchain that's pegged to local currency in every market. Stable coins are neither technologically there, market acceptance, regulator acceptance, proven through market ups and downs and economic cycles. So I think that's not a practical use at this point, but that's why a native token here can unlock these local credits pegged to the local currency, and that can be used today in any market.
But when the native tokens unlock these local credits, the native tokens themselves continue to fluctuate in value. So,
yes.
So this means there will be a disconnect between native tokens being staked and local credit.
Yeah, so the native tokens are staked temporarily before the money goes to the borrower, let's say at a disbursement, and we're isolating that volatility to somebody who wants to take it. So one thing I didn't mention in detail is this credit node. The credit node, we've talked to banks in India, technology companies. We're going to have to screen them, but they're the ones who actually want to take exposure to the tokens so that the lenders don't have to and the borrowers don't have to. That's for them, right? Not me.
Do you have a plan to adapt the stablecoin in this platform?
I don't think in the near term. I think for the time being, we're going to use this token until maybe at some point, decades from now, if stablecoins in all of these emerging markets pegged to local currency are for real. Like we use Stellar, we're doing a Stellar token. Stellar has anchors in different countries. Even those Stellar anchors, when they create a local, let's say, rupee-backed or Stellar-backed rupee, is just a bank issuing its own Stellar token. Another bank is going to issue its own Stellar token. They don't sync up. So I think we're a ways away in most places from having a stable coin we can use.